In the game of predators, only a few names can carry the weight of fear, like Ray Lewis.
It's a man! Oh! Y'all thought y'all was getting out of here easy.
Here has the football, has a lot of time, throws underneath, and it's picked off. Ray Lewis has the ball. He's on the 40, 30, couldn't go all the way.
To the Baltimore Ravens, he wasn't just an ordinary linebacker. He was the greatest linebacker in Ravens history.
Let's go!
Ray Lewis from the Baltimore Ravens.
What time is it? Game time! Time is it? Game time!
Bill Belichick was quoted by NFL Network on X, saying that Lewis was one of the most complete players to ever play the game.
Ray, you're one of the most complete players that ever played the game.
Hey, Ray. Good, man.
Good to see you.
Stay out of our hair today.
But greatness isn't just built on reputation. It's measured in impact, dominance, and legacy. So today, we're breaking it down. How good was Ray Lewis actually? Bartow, a small town in central Florida, known more for its orange groves than its football stars. But nobody knew that, in 1975, this quiet town gave birth to a boy who would grow into one of the fiercest players the NFL had ever seen. Yes, we're talking about Raymond Anthony Lewis Jr. His start in life was anything but easy. His mother was only 16 when she had him. His father was a record-setting high school wrestler who later disappeared from Ray's life, eventually serving time for drug-related offenses. This thing left young Ray as the man of the house before he was even old enough to understand this point. Lewis wasn't just the oldest of 5, he was the stand-in man of the house. His mornings started with walking his little brother to daycare and carefully braiding his sister's hair before school. Responsibility wasn't a choice, it was survival. But the home wasn't a safe place either. Ray later admitted that his stepfather was abusive toward his mother. That pain lit a fire inside him. One day, he grabbed a deck of 52 playing cards. Each card represented a set of push-ups. Flip one, drop down, push, again and again. That deck became his training partner. That pain became his fuel. Years later, it became his trademark number 52. Not just a number, but a reminder of why he started. At Kathleen High School in Lakeland, Florida, Ray became a force of nature. He wasn't the biggest guy on the field, but he made up for it with sharp instincts and nonstop intensity and grit. He dominated as a linebacker and also wrestled his way to a Florida State championship. That balance of raw power and technical discipline would define his game forever. And while most teenagers were dreaming about prom night, Ray Lewis was dreaming about protection, protecting his family, and protecting anyone wearing the same jersey as him. He said it while talking about his great football journey. By the time he got to the University of Miami, Ray already carried himself like a man on a mission. The Hurricanes didn't take long to notice his abilities. As a freshman, he broke into the starting lineup. He recorded 81 tackles and earned freshman All-American honors. Miami had a reputation for producing defensive legends, and Lewis fit right in. By his sophomore year, he was the engine of the nation's top-ranked defense. 153 tackles, first-team All-American, and all Big East honors. His junior season was even better. 160 tackles, second most in school history, and a finalist for the Butkus Award. Teammates at Miami often said Ray didn't just play football, he lived it. He was the loudest in the locker room, the hardest worker on the field, and the heartbeat of a defense stacked with future NFL stars. Miami in the mid-90s was loaded with NFL-bound talent like Warren Sapp, Ed Reed, and many others. Ray often credited that environment of constant competition as what sharpened him into a relentless competitor. After just 3 years, Lewis had left his mark on the Hurricanes, ranking 5th in career tackles despite playing only 3 seasons. He could have stayed. He could have tried to win that Butkus Award, but Ray was ready for the next level. So in 1996, he declared for the NFL Draft.
With the 25th selection in the first round, the Baltimore Ravens have selected Ray Lewis, linebacker, University of Miami.
The Baltimore Ravens, a brand new franchise looking to build an identity, took him 26th overall in the first round. Their very first defensive draft pick, it was basically their foundation. What no one knew at the time was that this young linebacker from Florida, carrying a deck of cards and the weight of his family on his shoulders, was about to redefine what intensity meant in the NFL. When the Baltimore Ravens made Ray Lewis their first defensive draft pick in 1996, nobody knew he'd become the soul of their franchise. At the time, scouts praised his speed, instincts, and intensity, but questions were also arising. Was he too small to anchor an NFL defense? Ray answered that in Week 1. Against the Oakland Raiders in his very first NFL game, the rookie linebacker finished with 7 tackles and an interception. He didn't just hold his own, he earned AFC Defensive Player of the Week honors. By the end of the season, he led the Ravens with 110 tackles and topped the entire league with 15 tackles for loss. His rookie year set the tone that Ray Lewis wasn't here to survive. He was here to dominate. In 1997, he took it to another level. Week after week, he swallowed up ball carriers, and by season's end, he had 184 tackles, the most in the NFL and the most solo tackles ever recorded in a single season. That kind of production earned him his first Pro Bowl. For a team still trying to find its identity, Ray had already given them one. They were known for toughness, relentless, and bone-rattling resilience. 1998 only reinforced it. He earned another Pro Bowl trip and continued to lead the team in tackles. One moment stood out above all: the Ravens facing the Detroit Lions in what turned out to be Barry Sanders' final NFL game. Sanders was the most elusive running back the league had ever seen. But that day, the Ravens, with Ray at the center, held him to just 41 yards. It was the perfect symbol. Ray Lewis wasn't just tackling great players, he was ending legacies. 1999 rolled in and his dominance was undeniable. From the season opener against the St. Louis Rams, 14 solo tackles, a sack, and an interception. He set the standard for Baltimore's defense. Week after week, he was everywhere. By year's end, he led the league again with 165 tackles, his third straight Pro Bowl, and a first-team All-Pro selection. Teammates already saw him as the general, the voice who followed into battle. But 2000 is where Ray Lewis went from star linebacker to legend. That season, the Ravens' defense became something out of mythology. The opponents simply couldn't score. They allowed the fewest points ever in a 16-game season, only 165. You believe it? They held teams under 1,000 rushing yards for the year, another NFL record. 4 shutouts, suffocating pressure, and a swagger that made offenses quit before the fourth quarter even started. And at the center of it was Ray Lewis. He finished with 137 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 3 fumble recoveries. But the stats didn't capture it. His voice in the huddle, his glare across the line of scrimmage. He was the heartbeat of what many call the greatest defense in NFL history. In the playoffs, he was even better. Against the Titans, he picked off Steve McNair and returned it 50 yards for a touchdown that sealed the game. In the Super Bowl, the Ravens dismantled the New York Giants, holding them to just 7 points. None scored against the defense. Ray's fingerprints were everywhere. 5 tackles, 4 passes defended, constant disruption. The voters didn't hesitate. He was named Super Bowl 35 MVP.
Oh my goodness, as a child, I've dreamed this.
Ray Lewis had gone from a too small draft pick to the Defensive Player of the Year, a Super Bowl champion, and the unquestioned face of a dynasty in the making. The Ravens were no longer just a new franchise. Thanks to Ray Lewis, they had an identity. They had fear on their side. After lifting the Lombardi in 2000, Ray Lewis didn't slow down. He was already the face of the Ravens, but what came next cemented him as one of the greatest linebackers in NFL history. Ray wasn't just a tackler, he was an architect of violence. Watch him at the snap. His eyes locked onto the quarterback. His first step was faster than most running backs. Somehow he slipped through linemen who outweighed him by 70 pounds. He could explode through a gap and meet a ball carrier head-on, or drop fluidly into coverage and pick off a pass like a safety. In 2001, he put up 162 tackles and had a game against the Colts where he racked up 18 stops in a single night. Later that year, against Cincinnati, he forced 2 interceptions in a shutout. It was proof that quarterbacks feared throwing anywhere near him, but it wasn't just the numbers. Teammates said that even when Lewis wasn't making the tackle, the ball always seemed to find him. Injuries slowed him in 2002 and 2005, but when he was healthy, he was unstoppable. His 2003 campaign might have been his purest masterpiece. 161 tackles, 6 interceptions, and his second Defensive Player of the Year award. Can you expect 6 interceptions from a middle linebacker? That was unbelievable for many football fans. It was his instincts, his ability to read an offense like a book that set him apart. One of his most famous plays came in 2009 in San Diego. Fourth down, game on the line. Darren Sproles, one of the league's shiftiest backs, took the handoff. He needed just a few yards. Ray Lewis exploded through the line, wrapping Sproles up and driving him backwards before he even had a chance. Years later, Lewis admitted it was one of his proudest tackles. Pure anticipation, pure will. And then there was his leadership. In the mid-2000s, Baltimore's defense was filled with stars: Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, Halati Ngata. But it was Ray's voice that echoed in the huddle. He'd line everyone up, diagnose plays before they happened, and then finish them with a thunderous hit. Coaches often said he was like having a defensive coordinator on the field, only faster and angrier. The late 2000s brought new chapters. He returned interceptions for touchdowns, delivered crushing hits, and kept making Pro Bowls well into his 30s. In 2010, he became the fastest player ever to record 30 sacks and 30 interceptions. The achievement that proved he wasn't just a run stopper, but one of the most complete defenders the NFL had ever seen. But even legends face time. By 2012, Ray was battered and 37 years old. When Ray Lewis tore his triceps in 2012, many thought it was over. But Lewis wasn't wired for quiet exits. He announced he would retire after the season, turning the playoffs into his farewell tour. And fittingly, the Ravens caught fire. They took down Andrew Luck's Colts, Peyton Manning's Broncos in a double overtime classic, and then Tom Brady's Patriots in Foxborough. The last stop was Super Bowl 47. On that night, under the lights of New Orleans, Lewis danced his way into history one final time. Baltimore defeated the San Francisco 49ers 34-31. Lewis, standing in confetti, arms stretched wide, went out as a champion. It was Storybook. The man who carried the franchise from its first days in 1996 was there, 17 years later, holding the Lombardi Trophy. Ray Lewis retired as a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a 13-time Pro Bowler, a 7-time First-Team All-Pro, a Super Bowl MVP, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and the heartbeat of one of the greatest defenses ever assembled. He talked about his Super Bowl moments like,
We ain't finished yet, and they in the wait, and when they in the wait, we gotta be pissed off.
From 1996 to 2012, he built a career that wasn't defined just by stats, but by fear and greatness of his game. By the way, an entire offense had to change their game plan when they saw number 52 across the line. Ray Lewis wasn't just a linebacker. He was the Ravens. He was their identity. When he retired, it felt like the end of an era, for Baltimore and for football itself. For all his dominance on the field, Ray Lewis's story can't be told without the shadows off of it. In January 2000, just hours after Super Bowl 34, Lewis was arrested and charged with murder following a nightclub fight in Atlanta that left 2 men dead. The case shook the NFL. For months, headlines weren't about tackles or sacks, they were about trials and testimony. Eventually, Lewis struck a plea deal, pleading guilty to obstruction of justice. The murder charges were dropped, but the stigma stayed. He paid fines, reached settlements, and, for a time, was seen as one of the most polarizing figures in sports. But what's remarkable is what came next. Lewis didn't run from football, he leaned into it. He rebuilt his reputation through relentless play, leadership, and eventually, philanthropy. To teammates, he became more than a linebacker. He became a general, a motivator, and a spiritual core of the Ravens locker room. But his legacy is more than numbers. It's the iconic dance before kickoff. The speeches that sounded like sermons, the tackles that echoed like thunder, the image of a man who, with all his flaws, turned football into pure theater. As John Harbaugh once said, Ray Lewis exemplifies what it means to be a Raven. So what do you think? Was Ray Lewis truly the most intense and greatest linebacker of all time? Or does someone else deserve that crown? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives into the legends who changed the game forever.